Yeah, so it sounds like she didn't like the dog's energy.
At all.
Yeah, which is normal. So, just like with humans, like, not everybody I meet I like, and not everybody that meets me likes me.
Yeah.
You know, same thing for dogs, and especially like when it comes to puppies. Like, let's say this was, that's an adult.
Yeah.
Like, let's say it was like a 7-year-old puppy, and there was behaving that way, and she was growling. Like in our world, if we see someone's child misbehaving, like we just keep it to ourselves.
Right.
Some people make comments, but for the most part, we just like that's not our child. We can't discipline that kid, right?
Yeah.
That's on that parent's. That's a parent's responsibility. In the dog world, they regulate each other,
Yeah.
whether it's an adult dog or a puppy. So if the puppy was being a nuisance or displaying bad manners, she's like, you know what, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You know, and she would nip at the puppy. It's not so much her being aggressive; it's her correcting.
Yeah.
Okay, like the equivalent of a human spanking.
She's done that so many times with, like, I've taken in fosters before, and like she's definitely been good with that with, like, yeah, like little younger puppies.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And I've
Yeah. You know, so I get this common question that I get, and I'm like, no, I'm like that's dog, right?
Yeah.
What I would care about is like if she was actively or proactively going after the dog, like that's different, right? So in her case, she's like, you know what, I don't like your energy, so I'm gonna distance myself. So that's avoidance, which is good.
She was keeping her attention.
Yeah, and then if the dog comes in, because she's already avoiding, and then she's like, okay, now I can't avoid you, so now I'm gonna have to confront you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like if someone's like harassing you and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. Maybe you move like to a different table, maybe you go down a different aisle of the store, and then they continue to pursue.
Yeah.
You know, at some point it's like, all right, look, I can't avoid you, so now you just like you have to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Very much the same with dogs. Okay.
Should I have when the other dog was getting close? Should I have like corrected her then? Like, should I have?
So the problem, so the reason for explaining that situation is you can't make her like the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. That's her personal opinion. Now I look at that situation and I go, okay, you did the correct thing. You said, I'm going to place myself over here.
Yeah.
Then the dog comes over and then no one's regulating it.
Right.
So technically, what I would do is I would actually correct or stop that puppy or dog.
Yeah.
So she goes, cool, I avoid, dad takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
You know, most people, you know, would think, well, you want to correct them. I'm like, but technically she's not doing anything wrong.
I know. That's why I had this conflict. I'm like,
Yes,
she's
so
trying to keep to herself and just hang out.
yes, so personally, I would have just taken that dog and separated, because she's like, I'm gonna go over here. You know,
Yeah.
no confrontation. And then if we don't regulate the other dog, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if she starts growling and you choose to correct it, then what you can do, but then I would absolutely have to step in. You know, because what I'm saying is, look, yes, this dog came, you don't need to escalate it, I'll take care of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's either I address it prior, or if it does happen and I have to correct her, then I absolutely have to address that situation. Because what can happen is you're telling her, no, you can't, you know, do that.
Yeah.
Is it's going to put her stress levels up? Because then she's going, now when you come into my space, not only can I not avoid you, but there's also a risk of a correction to me, and I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So then they're more likely to go to the, you know, be more responsive in an aggressive fashion, where she might like jump and lunge, which is like, I really don't want you next to me
Right.
because I got remoted last night. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tricky scenario. But if she's doing the correct thing, well, look, I don't like this dog, so I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah.
Then I step in and I address that. So like in our daycare, like if she's playing with dogs and we saw a dog that she wasn't vibing with, my handlers would proactively bump that dog away to teach the dog, leave her alone. And if that dog continued, but she's being fine otherwise, then we'd say, all right, cool, we know that this dog needs to be not in here when Pepper's in. You know, like we're proactive about that.
Right.
So that's how I would look at it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, like let's say that dog was calm and just like minding its business, and Pepper was going over and growling and bullying.
Yeah.
She's the
the
proactive one. You would correct that, and then she'll most likely go into avoidance as well. But then both dogs are on the same page. Then there's no problem. Okay.
Okay. All right. So there's that, and then I have tried to do like with the long lead and
Oh,
like,
sure.
doing recall like in the park or whatever, and she has made me like a little worried that she's like not being my did get the opportunity to go to a friend's house that had like a really big backyard, and which was like a separate instance, but there was like, it's fenced up, well fenced like on two sides, but on the back it's like just a low kind of like that she could for sure jump. And so I was like, and then it's like woods in the back, so I was a little nervous that she would just not listen and whatever. And she didn't. The first time, like I called her back up onto the deck, and like she came back with not just verbal, but with this. But the second time, like she didn't come right away, and so I kept like I cranked it up again, and cranked it up, and I'm like, and I kind of had to like be do it a couple times. Like,
sure.
Fine.
Sure.
So, I guess like that's the improvement of just trying to like be able to trust her, whether it's in. I mean, we don't really get the opportunity to be in like in a fenced yard, but
Sure.
more so like in a park.
Yes.
For
So there's two aspects to dog training. Dog.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is one of the cons of daycare or boarding is that we teach everything, but everything is technically related to us, which is why we do these sessions. So then you learn, and then you can practice, and then you can transfer it to you, right?
Yeah.
The second aspect of it is you're comfortable. So like for us, like because when I'm a trainer, we all day every day, is that I know when I have control and I know when I don't. And I know if I don't have control, I know how to get control. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like I had a lady, I worked with her for 9 weeks, her dog was a pit bull, was very reactive. And at the end of our 9th class, she's like, I would never have this dog off-leash, I don't trust this dog, have this dog on short leash, always step aside and stuff. And then fast forward a year, I saw her at my pack walk thing.
Yeah.
And she had her dog off-leash, and she was like, Jesse, he's my friends, right? Because at the end of 9 weeks, her trust wasn't there.
Yeah.
So she needed more time to practice and have successes and realize like, oh wow, like I do have control.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? So like I'll tell them like, your dog is trained, great job. But the owner's like, but I still don't trust my dog.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, then you need more time to
Yeah.
get there. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So what I would do, and what we're going to cover today, because I don't think we formally went over recall with each other.
No.
You just went by.
What I've done past. Yeah.
Okay. So that's actually what we're going to do today.
Okay.
Is go over the recall. And then what you do is exactly what you were doing, was going out with that long leash, because now she has to transfer that recall over to you. Okay. Now if she's not being mindful, you're correct. Higher number. But before, because we've not formally covered it yet, when there is no leash, so dogs see things in pictures. So if you have a long leash leading to, you'll see like every time like Pepper will be perfect, right? And then one day you go, great, take off the leash. And then she's like, what do I do? Because there's no longer that visual line directing her that path, going, oh, I need to go back to mom. Okay, so that's why we have stages. We go from short leash to long leash dragging, to no leash in closed area, to no leash in unenclosed area. Okay. That's the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So then once I've done enough of the recalls, then I want to go into a situation where there is no leash, but I'm expecting the dog is going to have issues. So what I do is, instead of calling them from across the yard, I actually come in closer.
Yeah.
And I call them, and they're like 6 to 8 feet away. I make it easier. Okay? And then I just work that back until I can call the dog from, anywhere. The dog can turn.
Right.
Okay? So what you saw is normal. And then you were correct to go higher. But if you saw that she was having issues, it's because one, we've not formally done it yet.
Yeah.
But then two, because that leash was completely off and we haven't transferred and done the practice.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Okay. One other thing, thinking about it, when we were walking, like one time, a couple times actually, like her e-collar like had died and forgot to charge it.
Oh, sure.
And so I just had the front collar, and like it's like she knows, and she doesn't like even though just a short walk, she'll just like start walking ahead of me.
Sure.
And
Is it e-collars on with the prong collar or just the prong collar?
It's just the front collar because like the e-collar is down.
So you move the e-collar.
Yeah.
Okay. I would just put it on.
Just even though it doesn't.
Yeah, to kind of fake her out. Okay.
Because she knows that.
Yeah. Now you can use the prong to reinforce the obedience, but then you have to.
I was doing
very
a lot of
firm.
corrections. Like,
Correct. Yeah. So
Why?
what I tell people to do is to like either charge the collar once a week. That'll keep it. That's usually good enough to keep it charged.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a 2-hour charge system.
It lasts like forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the collar itself that dies. That dies.
That dies first.
Yeah. So I would say if you charge it once a week, it should keep everything good to go.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell my clients when you wake up, just plug it in, and as you get ready, you just have it charging, and that should keep the battery charged without like killing you.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to have long leash, right?
I do not. Honey.
So we're gonna go ahead and move over here, in the sunny area, because we got sun today.
Great.
Okay, there we go. Oh, got some stuff. And does she have a poop bag holder on?
I have just right here.
Okay, that's fine. It's because that leash is going to be dragging. So if people have poop bags on it, so that people
She loves you guys. She gets so excited.
that it doesn't break.
Got it.
So I'm going to give you. Okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to break down how the recall works. Okay. Now I'm going to start first with the short leash, but you're going to be doing this with the end of your long leash. Is what we want to do here is what's your number currently set at?
41, but I did just, while we walked over here, she was like so alert with squirrels, I had it at like 70.
Sure, yeah. But that's what makes e-collar effective, is you can adapt to the environment.
Yeah.
Okay? Now once you hit 70, how was her response after that?
She listened.
Okay, now does she listen or does she listen?
Like she was still looking, and I was like, I don't know if it's just like, how excited it is today.
Sure. So whenever she's doing anything, I want you to just think like right there when you said like she listened, right?
It wasn't great.
Exactly. As I just keep going up.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I was at 70, we still have 30 more levels. So then I would just keep bumping it until you're like you find that number, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe she gives a yip or whatever. Don't always think that yip means discomfort. It can be surprise.
Yeah.
It can be frustration. Okay, it's not always physical discomfort. I go by what does she do afterwards. So if let's say I hit her at 90, and all of a sudden she's perfect and she kind of panicked a bit, then I know that 90 was effective, but a little too much.
Yeah.
So then I go down to 80. But then on 80, maybe she's back to lollygagging or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I go to 85.
Right.
Until I get that balance of she's spot on, but she's not overly worried about it. Okay. So and I can see this immediately. Like after one tap, once the dog performs, I can tell I need to bump it again. Whereas for most people, they tend to give the dog the opportunity to try to fix or correct the problem, and they go, no. You always make the dog correct the problem, and the faster you get to that point, the better she's going to be. Because she's gonna be like, Mom, doesn't play.
Yeah.
It's I say this, you do this. Otherwise, this just keeps going up, and it goes up quickly.
Yeah.
Until you find that nice resting. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just pretend we're at ground zero here with the recall. Is the way we taught Pepper is that we put pressure on her collar here, and we time right here. You can see how there's a little bit of a pull on her prong.
Yeah.
Right there, is we time that pressure with the remote. Okay. So when you pull this and you start tapping, we don't say words in the beginning. We're teaching her that when you feel this, to move towards the tension of the leash.
Okay.
So a dog's first instinct when they feel e-collar is typically to run away. And we don't want that to happen. We want her to always think, I should come too. Okay?
Yeah.
So I would put tension, I start tapping.
You would tap now?
No.
Okay.
Sorry,
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically tap. I put tension, I start tapping, and then I start to move backwards away from Pepper. But as I move backwards, eventually that leash is gonna move her, right? So the moment I see Pepper move towards me, I let the pressure go. I stop the tapping, okay? But I keep moving backwards at least 2 to 3 more steps, okay? So it would be tap, tap, tap. She feels pressure. She's moving towards me, and then the moment she moves towards me, I would stop, okay? After a couple of steps. The reason why that movement backwards is important is because if you're here, let's say there was like this was busier, you moving backwards after you call her differentiates you from the environment. So if she, she feels the tapping, she looks around and she sees you doing this, that's telling her like you need to return to me. Okay, so that's like the visual cue, and that's a forever thing. Like my dogs, again, Off-Leash trained 8 years. If I call them, you'll still see me do this. Okay, that's just the visual cue. But
you're not just standing. You gotta go back.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of my clients will say, I go to the dog park and I call my dog, they don't listen, and they'll say like, but when I leave the dog park, the dog all of a sudden wants to come with me because they're afraid I'm gonna abandon them. Like the dog's not afraid that you're gonna abandon them. That's because now you're moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're giving your dog something to attach to. But if you're like, Pepper, come, and she looks at you, and you're just standing there, she's like, what?
Yeah.
And then she goes back to what she's doing. But if you're like, Pepper, come, and she sees you, and you do this, she's like, oh, sure, and she comes towards you. Okay, so once she starts moving towards you, we stop the tapping, a couple more steps, I let her finish the rest of the way. Her job is to come in close, I don't care where. So if she landed here, 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 or here, all fine, because she's in my immediate space.
Yeah.
What I don't want is if I call Pepper, she lands there. Okay? And a lot of people will go, oh, good dog, and they'll pet the dog over here.
They'll go to them.
Yeah. And I go, don't do that, because now you've done part of the work, and what ends up happening is the dog will start gravitating to like this spot and not stop and then pick up again.
Well, for the times that I have tried this, like a lot of times she comes, but then she like leaves right away.
Yes.
It's like, no.
No.
Is she supposed to sit?
She's supposed to automatically sit and not leave your side. Okay, so we're gonna tighten all that up today.
Yeah.
So I don't care where she lands. I just care that she's in my immediate space and she puts that butt down. Okay, so it's kind of like a heel. Walk with me, stay with me, sit with me, and stop. Same thing with the recall.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we find, like, let's say when we're calling Pepper, let's say she decides to deviate and go to like this direction. Right? You want to then pivot your body to face Pepper and move this way as you tap again. Okay. So you're always facing Pepper, but reversing away from her.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like to do a come and call and then walk and give my back to the dog, because then you don't know what's happening after that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure the dog lands completely. Okay? Questions so far?
No, that makes sense.
So I'm going to show you a couple of things with the Long Leash. One is, what hand do you use your remote with?
Honestly, both. Sometimes I do like this with the leash in this hand, and then sometimes I'm like rear.
Okay, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
Okay, let's stick with your right here.
Okay.
Take the handle of your leash. You're going to put over your right thumb. Right thumb. There you go. Okay, and then going to put your remote there. Okay, so you have your finger on the button there, right? And it frees up these fingers. And with these fingers, with your left hand, you're gonna drape the leash over your hand like this, like that. And with these fingers, it allows you to reel in and throw back that leash. See that? There you go, like that. And you're just gonna throw it on the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing here is when you're practicing this, when you're moving back, you're reeling in that leash. You don't have to worry about reeling it all in. You're just shortening it so that when Pepper comes to you, if she decides to bypass, she's not gonna have 30 feet to bypass.
Yeah.
She's only gonna have like 10 feet. So then if she went past me this way, I would turn, tap, 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 start backing this way as I reel her in, and then show the leash as she comes to me.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing I'm gonna show you, and this is more so like FYI, in case it happens, is when you're reeling in your leash, once you've decided to stop, you're gonna take your hand like this, and go like this. That locks your leash. Okay, and this locks your leash as well.
Yeah.
So like, let's say like a squirrel catches her attention, she books it. If you hold it like this, she might jolt you a bit, but she's not gonna feed that leash through, because that will lead to rope burn. Okay,
Yeah,
it's gonna suck.
I've been there.
Yes. So if you don't have this hand gripped correctly, but this is like this, I would let this go and then let the right hand catch catch her when she comes to the end of it. Okay? Because this here, she's not going to feed that through. It's locked.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's just a couple of things so that we prevent those issues from happening. Because I've had that happen to a couple of clients and it sucks. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to coach you through this. I'm going to teach you how we taught it, and then we're going to start layering in the word just to transfer everything to you. And you're currently at what now?
43.
43? That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to take Pepper. Take the distance. Go ahead and come forward a little bit. That's good right there. So what I'm going to have you do now is go ahead and lightly start to pull in, feel in some of this here. Okay, right there. So you see how you can feel a little bit of tension now?
Yeah.
So here you're going to tie that tension, and I'm going to coach you through this. And you're going to tie the tension, and you're going to start tapping. Remember, the moment she moves towards you, you stop tapping, but keep moving back at least 2 to 3 more steps. Okay? So tap, 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 tap. Now back. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Now wait. Tap. Good. And praise.
Good girl. Good girl, Pepper.
And break.
Break.
We're going to repeat that a few times. That was good. Good for you. Right. Yeah, we're going to do it 4 more times. Tap, tap, tap. Back. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Tap. And praise.
Good girl, Pepper. Yes, good girl.
And you tuck in. Good. And then tissue. Break.
Break.
That's your beat. So break means her job is done. Now the reason why we do the tuning thing is because she's gonna get savvy to this exercise, and she's gonna start wanting.
Yeah.
She knows she can already see. She knows that mom's gonna come.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is good. Tap. 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 Keep moving. 1, back, tap. There you go. Good. Okay.
Good girl. Good girl, Pepper.
Good. Now we're gonna do 2 more.
Oh, that was surprisingly good.
Great. That's really good.
Great.
How are you?
She's very confused and she's caught up.
Yeah, I know. So the reason why we work her through that is, realistically speaking, there's going to be distractions.
It can't always be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we work through that stuff, and I'll tell you what you want to watch out for, just in case that happens. But that's why I was like, just go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
because I know it's going to bother her. Yeah. Yeah. Back. 1, 2. That's good. Nothing. There you go. Good, praise.
Good girl, Pepper.
Good. We're going to do 1 more.
Good girl. I didn't tap her again. She just like figured it
She
out.
figured out. So technically you
I
would have
should've
tapped.
done it right
However,
away.
she did, like, I saw her
She was
pivot.
moving, so I was like,
Yeah. So that was fine because she did do it quick enough. Okay. And break.
break.
Yeah. Tap, tap, and back. 1, 2, that's good. Tap. There you go. And praise. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do another 5, but now you're not going to pull the leash. You're just going to start tapping first. Okay? What we're wanting to see is she'll respond to the taps without the leash pressure. So you might see her like try to run to me. Just hold the leash and keep tapping, and then we should see her 180. And then once you see her turn, you'll start your movements back.
But don't, should I be reeling in the
And
leash
still
off?
reeling the leash.
Still
Correct.
reeling it, but no pressure.
Correct.
Too much?
No, you're good. So tap, tap, back. 1, 2, 3. Good. Tap. There she goes. Atta girl. Hey.
Girl.
Girl's a girl. 4 more. That's pretty good.
She's making it look like she's like a pro.
Well, now we're on the same page, right?
Now she's like, oh, mom's learning this.
Yes. That's why these follow-ups are so important because, it's not like humans where they get to learn something and do it.
Right.
No matter who they're with. There has to be a uniformity in terms of what you're doing, so it transfers well. Exactly. Good. All right. And that number right now that you're working is good.
43.
She's moving. She's hustling. She's responding very quickly. And break.
Break.
Press read. Show your nose. Say no. Okay. Well, if she yips again, we'll dial it down.
Okay.
Break.
That was a big one.
Exactly. So you see how she's like overly edgy here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna see how she responds to this one. If it's another yip, we'll go down to your what?
43.
We'll go down to 33 if needed. Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Yep.
Good girl.
Good. We're gonna do one more.
Good girl. Amber.
Break. Break.
Good girl.
Excellent. So now, let her rest for a moment. Good. Now I was actually going to say that. So go ahead and take 2 steps to your right there. Okay? Right. Good. So we're going to pause right there. I'm going to just explain more about this, but with the recall, like earlier you mentioned, she'll come and like go. Is recall is come to me, stay with me, and stick with me. Okay? So here, you just unintentionally like took a step to the side,
Yeah.
and then she went, right?
Good, yeah.
And then I had to do 2 more. There was a little bit of a delay, but then she went in front and then sat back down again. So with the recall, the way that I teach it is, you have to come to me, stay with me, sit when you arrive, and then stick with me. So after a recall, if you were to move again, she should move with you. Okay? Now I don't care how she moves with you. It's not like heel. Heel is very specific, right?
Yeah.
With this, again, I don't care where she lands. I just care that she moves immediately once we give her the okay? So until you cue the word break, she is not to leave your side.
Got it.
Okay? So like let's say you called her off of a tree with squirrels and she comes to me. I might wait a little bit. Try to go back. Right? Tempt her with that. Then I might go, let's see if I do this. If she's too intent on the squirrels, she might not move. Or she might think, oh, we're done because you're moving away. And in which case, you would kick in with the remote. If you wouldn't say anything, you would just correct her and teach her like, nope, you're still here. Okay? So, and I'll teach you more about that, but that's correct. When you move, she's supposed to follow you.
Okay.
Okay? Do you have any questions so far?
No.
So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna layer in the word come. So everything's gonna stay the same, except now you're gonna go pepper come, then the tapping, and then the pull if needed, or moving, and then always moving back. Okay? Now every time you call pepper, even if she comes immediately, you're still gonna tap at least once. Okay, so pepper come tap, pepper come tap, come tap, every single time. Okay? Even if she beats the punch, you're still gonna tap even if it's late.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we're trying to do here, you okay with this one?
Yeah.
Even if she's coming to you, the reason why we're tapping is because if I'm Pepper, right, and you call me and she responds and you tap after she responds, what happens?
It's except for simple.
How so?
What
yeah, maybe she's doing something wrong, right? Because you called her, she did something, and then she got tapped.
Yeah.
So a lot of dogs think, oh, that's wrong. Okay, so we force the confusion. So every time you call her, the reason why we do the tapping in the beginning is because I want to see the confusion. I want to see the dog get mixed up because I tapped too late. So I can prove that. So if I call Pepper and I tap too late, and then she turns around, I keep tapping and move back to direct her back to me. So that she learns like, oh, tap never means to run away. Tap always means to turn. Okay?
Got it.
So just keep that in mind. And we do this during the what we call the proofing phase, because we're trying to force these mistakes to happen so that we have as full of a proof recall as possible. Because when you're going to absolutely need that recall to work, you might find yourself, like jacking up that number. You could be at 100, be at 100 continuous, and you're wanting to know, like, man, if I put this much pressure on you, you're going to come back.
Yeah.
Okay? Questions?
Nope.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start the next batch. Go ahead and tell it break.
Break.
All right, so now you guys are adding that forward count. And then followed by an immediate tap.
Do we want pressure on right now?
No pressure. So you're doing the last thing.
But adding.
Forward. Atta girl.
Good girl.
Good. One more.
Do I have to say her name? Or
I do name count.
okay.
It's up to you, really. The reason why I do the name is because most people use the name as a recall anyways.
Yeah.
It's usually attached to from over here. It's the only command that I do that unless I'm working with multiple dogs.
Yeah.
So if I have like 3 dogs that are training at once, then I have to clarify who I'm talking to. Otherwise, with a singular dog, I just use the name from the recall.
Okay. Pepper, come.
Good. Good girl.
Girl.
Good. Break. And let's go ahead and swap. I'm gonna keep Pepper over here. I'm gonna have you go that way. Just to change it up a bit.
Oh, I was walking backwards.
There you go.
Pepper, come.
Nice.
Good
Good
girl.
girl. Ready? 2 more. Break.
Break. Break, break. Pepper, come. Yes, good girl.
And last one. Break.
Sometimes she doesn't do anything when I say break. And I don't like care, but
Yeah, so technically break, right? Like technically she could keep doing what she's doing,
yeah.
right? But if you find she's having trouble like kind of trusting if she can be free, then I make that like a training session where I'll go out, like maybe I'll do a recall into a break, like just keep repeating that.
Yeah.
So she learns that like no break means you can like, go play again.
Okay.
Okay?
Pepper, come.
Tapping. Oh, look at that. Very good.
Girl.
That dog got her attention over there. All right. So now, what we're going to do is now revisit those, what I call the side step exercise. So that's what you did right there.
Okay.
Okay? So you can move in any direction but forward like. So if Pepper comes to me, right, and I did a recall and I go like this, what does that look like?
You're coming closer, I don't know.
Well, she's here,
Oh,
right?
she's gonna move forward. If you can go. Go now? I don't know.
What command does this look like?
Heel.
Yes. Okay. That's all right. So if I move forward, I don't know if she's default healing or actually sticking to me. So I like to use directions that the dog can
Yeah.
heal with. So any direction but like this, or like this, because that's still forward leg. Okay. So what I do instead, like here she's on your left, right? You can either do like that, you can go backwards, or you can angle it out. Okay. Any direction but forward leg.
Yeah.
So I make it super awkward. So if she's moving with you, it's not because she's default heeling, it's because she's got the concept like, oh, once you call me, I'm supposed to stick to you.
Yeah.
Okay? So go ahead and take 3 steps backwards. Tap. Hold right there. Good. And then take 2 steps to your left. Good. And then 1 big step to your right. This is all default. There's no extra layer of word on this. This is all built from the default.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why we do this is actually as a preventative. So the most common thing people struggle with is if their dog does return, is if the dog goes back to what they were doing. Right. So she's meant to stay with you until released. So by adding this extra layer of like, hey, I might move after I call you, makes the dog more kind of paranoid about prematurely leaving because of this movement.
Yeah.
Okay. The other reason why we do this is because sometimes you'll move, and if she doesn't move, you'll tap, and she'll get confused, and then she'll run off.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're doing this as another measure to prove the recall, and the fact that tap never means to run away; it always means to run to me.
Yeah.
So if I move and I tap her and she runs off, then I keep tapping and moving away to tell her to come back. Okay. But never repeating that cue. And this is why we do the long leash for a bit, because we want to make sure that we prove these things. And with the long leash, even if she got 30 feet away, like I'm gonna make her return using the remote. And this way she learns that flight is not an option. Okay? Questions so far?
No.
Okay. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna have you keep your leash how you have it, and go to just say heel and walk forward.
Heel.
So here, you have to keep forward. When we start to go to off-leash heel, we want to do what I call like go off-leash. Go ahead and keep walking and then do a pivot here. Good. Go ahead and pick up your pace a bit. So before we get to fully off-leash, if we're trying to build like handler confidence, you're good. And go ahead and try a left turn. You have to get used to the feeling of not having that short immediate control over Pepper. I'm going to go to a stop. Good. Okay. So everything that we covered that first class with the heel and the turns and stuff, all that stuff stays the same.
Yeah.
Now we're just changing the length of the leash.
Okay.
So here, it's weird for people the first time they take the dog fully off leash, like use their obedience and stuff. It's really weird. Okay, it was weird for me. So here, when you have that 30-foot leash, and technically at that point it's a 50-foot drag, is if Pepper got ahead of you, you would correct it just like you would correct the short. You would just turn, tap. But here, now Pepper has up to 30 feet that she can make a mistake with, right? So if she goes past me and I turn and I start tapping, I keep walking and I'm tapping until, boom, she comes back to me.
Yeah.
And most people tend to stop, or most people the dog. No, you can't do that. We have to make the dog turn. Okay? So that's what we have this long leash. I'm not worried about. Is Pepper going to run away? I have her attached. Okay? Then the next stage with this is now we have the long leash dragging. You know, so if I go out, there's like, especially on the lakefront, there's like all that nice open area, which is like pure grass. I can pop her in a heel, have that leash dragging, and I'm a pretty good distance away from everything. And getting used to like where I don't have anything in my hand, but should something happen, I have something I can step on to help bring her back.
Yeah.
Okay? Now you have to start building your confidence of like, well, how well do you know this stuff? And how confident am I in correcting you should you make a mistake off leash? Okay? And that just comes down to using that remote, which is why I stress to everybody, if you're having an issue with something, always go to the remote and not using the leash, because when you use the leash, you're conditioning, like with the earlier when we did the pulling, we just did a few reps to transfer stuff. Then I said, now remove the leash and just go to the tap, right? Because you're not going to have that leash forever. So the longer you keep that leash in play with communicating with her, the more reliant she becomes on you. and the more reliant you become on it as well. Because people's first instinct is almost always when the dog is like not under control. He's like, grab the dog, grab the leash, you know, something like that. And I'm like, you have to collar.
Yeah.
That's why we do all these
Right.
time and practice and all that stuff. Because you have to now develop your confidence in yourself and your confidence in Pepper's skill set on, if you make a mistake, I can make you turn.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So let's say you go out with her and you're gonna do some training, you're gonna practice your recalls. Now you can start blending in long and shield. Okay?
Yeah.
So the way I would start using this stuff is, like, let's say there's a squirrels in that tree. I go, break. I let her be a dog.
Yeah, so that's another, like, how do I let her, it's trusting her to, like, actually go and see the squirrel.
Sure.
But then if they start to, like, run on the ground at that exact moment, am I like, Pepper, come, and then...
So, yes and no. Okay, so, like, I have no problem with dogs chasing squirrels around. Okay, they're dogs. I just want to make sure that I can go back.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, let's say this tree right here, that's like 15 feet. Let's say I told Pepper break, right? And she's jumping, she's barking at the squirrels, and the squirrel comes down and starts to run off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might let her chase the squirrel and call her in mid-pursuit. Or I might call her at the base while she's still in that moment. Or you can even call her when you say, okay, go, and she's on her way in the first place. So you're actually putting in the recall at different points.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's the pursuit and then there's the engagement. The pursuit is, of course, when she's just actively going for it. And the engagement is, okay, I'm here and I see squirrels and I'm jumping and barking at them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's practicing your recall in each one of those scenarios so you can detach her no matter what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you always practice, like, let's say, for instance, at the base of the tree, she's going to be great. But as soon as the squirrel starts running and she goes,
Yeah.
it's not going to transfer because now she's in pursuit of something.
Right.
So when we work with dogs, the thing that I stress is always trying to recreate realistic scenarios. And almost always when someone has to call their dog, the dog is moving away from them. They're chasing something,
Yeah.
they're running towards the tree, or they're running away from something that's scared of. It's almost always in a way motion. The dog is not going to be there waiting for you.
Yeah.
You know? So by practicing when she's actively engaged, and I might let her be there for like 5 minutes before I even call her. Because if you always call her at the beginning, like within 5-10 seconds, you'll see her go to chase squirrels and then run back right back. She's gonna be like, oh, you're just gonna call me in 5-10 seconds, right? So, and then sometimes I'll let them be there, and I don't even call them. I just drag them back using the leash. So I leave them like in that state.
Yeah.
So I don't kill the drive. So I can keep something to work with.
Yeah.
Makes sense? So you're trying to balance out having that control, but not doing too much control that she's paranoid and doesn't want to be a dog.
Right.
Because then you'll end up stuck. Because then you won't have anything to practice with.
Good point.
Does that make sense? So, questions about that?
No, that makes sense. I mean, generally, like, if we're walking along on a sidewalk and then we turn and we, like, enter in a park, almost always she, like, starts, if we're starting to walk, like, through the grass, she starts not walking, like, perfectly
Sure,
anymore.
sure.
It's a common thing. And then I'm like, shh, you know, and then she will go. But, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if there's something I can do before we even get there.
Sure.
For her to continue walking nice on grass.
What I would do is actually let her be tempted.
Okay.
Because let's say you did something preventatively, she's still going to be thinking, but I really want to try.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because you're not allowing her to do it in the first place. So I actually had a session with a client, Walter. I don't know if you've seen Walter.
Yeah.
He's on Instagram. So I was working with him and his owner, and she was doing this exercise. And she walked towards the tree with the squirrel in it, and he just went, ran. And she turned, and I think she ended up on 100. And he went, and he ran straight back to her leg. And then I said, walk back to the tree again. And he wouldn't leave her side. Okay? Because he attempted the behavior. And then he learned, wow, I can do it. But now there's a very heavy consequence if I do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So it gets that out the head. So they're not thinking, she's not sitting there conflicted of like, but I haven't tried it yet.
Right.
It's still an option. So I go, try the option, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the, so it's a park.
Yeah, Jackal.
Yep. I'll drop her. Yeah, yeah. Put her on the long leash.
Yeah.
Heel. Start walking, and let her be tempted. As soon as she deviates, you know, you can start off with whatever you're at, 45. And what I like to do with the long leash is make right turns.
Okay.
Okay. So we covered the crossovers.
Yeah.
We covered the pivots, but then you're just making a soft right turn like this. And the reason why I do that is when you turn to the right, you leave their peripheral range. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So if you turn and you start tapping, you can get some gap to force her to try to close it and catch her off guard.
Yeah.
Okay? Because when you do left turns, you know, she can see you. When you do a pivot, she can see that you're communicating. So it's an unfair move because it's just out of nowhere. Because typically I would slow down and then turn left or turn right, right? But in this case, I'm just walking, and the moment I see the dog deviate, I just go boom, and I start going to the side because I want to force that disconnect. Because then she's like, "Holy crap!"
Right.
Sometimes you do crazy things that I'm not going to have a heads up on, and I need to pay attention.
Right.
So you're trying to make her more paranoid about you than she is about other things. Okay. Other questions? So what we're gonna do here is, did we ever cover the stay?
Like when in our last place we did when we were like in the room.
Did we do like the place? Did we do a placemat, or was it just the stay and then walk around?
We had with the upper like that.
The elevated bed? Okay. So the commands, I went over heel with you, I went over place with you, I went over recall right now. Any other commands that I went over with you? Was it down?
We did down in the.
It was the first class.
Yeah, it was first class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with stay, what we're gonna do here is you're gonna go ahead and switch to your short leash, and you drop the right leash for now. There you go. And with your left hand, I'm just go over this. So if we have done it, then just tell me, and I'll show you how we can push this further.
Yeah.
Is with your left hand, you're just gonna go like this over Pepper's face. You're gonna say stay.
Stay.
And then you're gonna pivot out with your right leg, like this, face Pepper. Okay, now up, step. And then you're actually gonna choke up a little bit more on your leash. That's fine. We're gonna try that again, okay? So you're gonna go stay, and you're gonna pivot out like this, but if she gets up, you're gonna pull up and back, and tap. Now the issue we're gonna have here is because we did a lot of recall, she's probably gonna wanna come to you. So you have to make sure you keep her back, and she's not able to get back to your personal space.
Got it.
Okay?
Stay.
Good. Then back to her side. Go ahead and praise.
Good girl.
Okay, go ahead and put her in the heel.
Heel.
And then left leg.
Wait.
Heel, left leg. There you go. So the leg movement's going to get really important now.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and slow down. Stop. Yep, go, sit. There you go. Stay.
Stay.
And then right leg out. Good. Back to her side. Good. Heel, left leg.
Heel.
We're going to do that 3 more times.
Stay.
Good. Praise.
Good girl.
2 more times. Heel.
Heel.
And left leg.
It's me.
It's okay. Heel, left leg. Go ahead and turn, tap. And slow to stop. Stay.
Stay.
Good. And back to her side. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply that to the long leash. Okay? And I'm jumping you ahead a bit. You have some stuff.
Yeah.
You jump short, sure. There you go. And then I suggest holding that in your right hand. Yeah. So that when it's in your right hand, it makes a bigger U behind you. If you hold it in your left hand, it keeps all the leash in the middle, and it'll tangle up Pepper too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so having it in your right hand is ideal, and it's just, as you walk forward, it'll come behind you, and it'll be fine. Okay. So now you're gonna go ahead and cue heel, left leg.
Heel.
And slow to stop. Good. Stay.
Stay.
And what you're going to do here is you're going to start to walk around Pepper. Reel in a little bit, Alicia. That's good right there. Go ahead and give that slack. Good, and just start to walk around her. Good. Back to her side. Excellent. Heel.
Heel.
Good. Go ahead and pivot. Go ahead and speed up a little bit. Go and slow down to a stop. Good. Stay.
Stay.
Good. So the reason for the legs is for Pepper, left leg means she's the closest. We're walking. Exactly. Right leg, you don't need. Okay. So going forward, do be aware which legs you're moving with, because some people tend to do the stay and they'll do a little left into a big right, and the dogs will move because of the little left. Okay, so it's purely led by the right leg or by that left leg.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go ahead and come back to her side. Go ahead and put her in the heel. And forward, left leg. Go ahead and make a left turn. Another left. There you go. Go ahead and turn towards me. Good. Slow to stop. Tap. Okay. Go ahead and give her that stay.
Stay.
And then pivot out. And then start to walk around her. Try going a little bit further. Good. Back to her side. Good. I'm going to have you give her a break. Okay. So now what we want to do. What we're going to do is start blending this stuff together now. Okay. So I'm going to take Pepper, and then I'm going to have you do a recall. Okay. So I'm going to be running with you a little bit. You can call whenever you're ready. Okay.
Pepper, come.
Yep. Now here, do the side steps. And then go back. Yep. Right, good. Now here, give her a stay.
Stay.
I'm going to walk around her. Yep. Good. Back to her side. Going to put her in a heel.
Heel.
And forward, left leg. Tap. There she goes. Go to right turn. Yep. Go to right turn again. Towards me. There you go. Go to speed up. Pivot. Now slow walk. Back. Want to give her a stay?
Stay.
Step away. Good. So what we're doing here now is taking come, heel, and stay, and using them interchangeably.
Yeah.
So now when you go to practice with her, you can start blending these things.
Yeah.
Now, do not call her from a stay. Okay?
Don't call her from stay.
Yes, don't call her from stay. And don't release her from a distance either. Like, don't be 20 feet away and say, okay, break Pepper. Right? Because we want to prevent a problem from happening. A lot of people do recall from sit or down or stay. And what ends up happening is you'll tell her to stay and you'll walk away. And then when you turn to call her, she's going to preemptively run to you. Because she already knows like the pattern.
Yeah.
And that can create issues in the long run of, like, let's say you tell her to stay and you want her to not move. You don't want her to make that mistake. Okay? So instead, I only release dogs when I'm in their immediate space. So like here, and then I would say, okay, break. And I only call dogs when they're loose. If she sits
in a break.
In a break. If she sits on her own terms, that's different. She's sitting, but she chose to sit. But I wouldn't have her sit and then call her, because she's gonna get confused. Okay.
Yeah.
So I go to the park.
That's good.
Yeah, I go to the park. I let her be free, and we're just meandering. I'm holding the leash. She's free to be a dog. She sees the squirrels. Hey, go get it, right? Barking. Wait a moment. Have her come, right? She runs back to you. Wait a moment. See if she attempts to go back. Move a bit. Does she follow? Go into a stay. Are you going to go chase those squirrels from that stay, right? Come back. Go into a heel. Heel towards the squirrels.
Yeah.
Are you going to charge for the squirrels again? Or are you going to keep on my hip? Walk around. Come back. Great. Go back to it. So you can use those squirrels as a distraction, but as a reward. Okay? So you're just harnessing that prey
Which
drive.
I've never done.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Is harness the prey drive. Because now you don't have to worry about treats. You don't have to worry about a toy or anything. You just use what's around you. But then also, realistically speaking, if something happens, it's going to be, she's engaged with something. She's playing with the dog. She's chasing after a rabbit. You know, so you're practicing and training with real life scenarios to build real life scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have these three things to start using and working with interchangeably.
Should I only be using it with a long leash though?
Currently with the long
Not
leash.
off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because one, again, we're still transferring.
Yeah.
But then two, you personally getting that confidence up.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, and seeing her like respond, and then when you call her off of something, right? Now remember, your training's only as good as what you practice with.
Yeah.
So like at Daycare, they put her in the pen. They had her doing duration. They had her doing recalls and stuff while she was with the other dogs.
Yeah.
Right. So then we have to start transitioning that outside, because obviously my facility isn't like this.
Wait. Yeah.
Okay? But that's all you're doing. You're just going about your life. You're enjoying things with her. You're not so much drilling. It's really just applying as you go about like a 30, 45-minute walk with her. Just change it up. Instead of going, up and down the neighborhood, walk to the, Jungle Park, and then we're through there looking for squirrels and stuff, using whatever we have at hand to our advantage.
Yeah.
Okay? Questions about this?
No, we've been practicing a lot, so that's good to intermix in. Plenty of time to do that.
Yeah. So, that leaves us with the formal sit. Yeah. So the only thing that we have to go over is the formal sit, which is easy. Okay?
Is that from far, is it, or?
No, like so when I say formal sit, like if you pull up and tap, she'll put her butt down, so she'll sit, but it's not on the verbal cue.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So she knows to sit, but I want to show you how we reinforce all that stuff using remote, and then you'll have like the total package of what she knows: place, down, come, stay, heel, and then what's left is now just that sit.
If she's in a break, can I ever, say she's at the besides recall and cover come, is there anything, like, can I tell her to sit from far? Like, is that
Like emergency.
Yeah.
It's not advanced. It just has to be practiced.
Okay.
Okay. So like tell her down.
Down.
Sure. But she down, right?
Yeah.
So what I would
from
want.
Far? I don't know.
Yeah. So it can be done. So like the next time you bring her, just tell the handler like start emergency downs.
Yeah.
And I would just do emergency downs to make it easy. And emergency downs is technically like the one command that people lean towards. There's emergency sits and emergency downs. Emergency downs is easier and they're more reliable.
Okay.
It's easier for a dog if they're in a high speed or if they're in momentum to down than it is for them to sit.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's something I would go over. Okay. But technically you're correct. Even if she's running and playing, like you can say down and she should just flop. But it has the speed, like right there, it was like down. This, right? It has to be full in order for it to transfer to something like that.
Right.
Okay?
So with the remaining classes that we have, I mean, when should I time that with our next?
When you're ready. like give yourself time to practice.
Okay.
Like the classes don't expire.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
like the more you put time in between things, how would you say, the more mistakes you make, the more things you come across. You're like, Jesse, I'm having trouble with this.
Yeah.
Like let's say the recall. Like today, recall was on the agenda.
Yeah.
But then you talked about like, oh, like I tried it and it wasn't working. I was like, oh, because we have to transfer it, right?
Right.
And we covered all that stuff. And then making sure to cover the other stuff. So then, because with the 20-day, she gets off the train.
Yeah.
But then I got to build you to the point of knowing like, oh, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So this gives you time to just work on that stuff. And then whenever she comes, just tell them like, can you start emergency downs?
Yeah.
And it's pretty quick for us to teach. But then as you're working with it, it should just anything else? And if you struggle with anything, it's always just a number.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that is so true. I keep going back to that, like, just number. Okay.
yeah, that's the most common, like 98% of the time, if a client is struggling with something, it's a number.
Yeah.
Okay. Once we've taught the concepts, it's just a matter of making the dog respect it, because you have the environment, but then you also have your relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're like buddy with her and all that stuff, like super cuddly and everything, then you want to be an authority figure. That's where things get mixed up. And with us, we don't cuddle the dogs.
Right.
We train them. That we're seen as authority figures, so the dogs are just compliant.
Right.
And that's what works against. Okay. So I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying you have to compensate out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I've totally noticed. That's so true.
Yeah. Alrighty?
Okay, great.
All right. Well, it's good to see you again, Kayla.
Yes, thank you again.
And if you have any questions, you let us know.
Of course.
Otherwise, we'll get started with those emergency downs whenever you bring her in.
Perfect. Okay, Pepper. Break.
Break. There you go.
Everybody need to sound more excited.